Oh, how you doing? Wow. Welcome to Community Crossfire. Thank you. Whatever happened to the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1? You know, remember that record, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1? Luckily, I'm always on target, you know. Hey, welcome to Community Crossfire on this Memorial Day weekend. What an incredible show to have on Memorial Day as we acknowledge and pay homage to our fallen soldiers. This show tonight, I invited some guests on who are NRA members, National Rifle Association guys who believe that it's okay to carry guns, bear arms, the Second Amendment, all that good stuff. And every time before I go to my guests, I like to give a little commentary. Is that okay?
That's good. Works for me.
Ladies and gentlemen, last week, first of all, let me congratulate George Witcher and Caldwell, Jay Caldwell. I thought that was an incredible event. I saw a lot of seniors there yesterday when I walked through who watched the show. They were just thanking me for having an incredible show. I see people all over the city, all over the state, because now we're on YouTube, who watch our show, who really just thank me for showing both sides, and I try to do that. Also, I want to give a birthday shout out to Wayna. I hope you had a great birthday, Wayna. Myself, I celebrated my birthday on Wednesday, and yours was Thursday. And also a number of members from the Money Club, their birthday. Also last week, and Cal, you can relate to this. You know, I have shows, right? And I do talk. And I never apologize for what I say, right? So I get a phone call from Deborah Wilson, who I like. I like Deborah Wilson. She's the director of the Urban League. Okay. And of course, you always get somebody who watch my show and call around like I'm hiding. Mm-hmm. Look, 100,000 people can watch the show.
That's right.
So I can't hide.
No.
And so I made a comment about the Urban League. And I don't think it was derogatory. And by the way, Deborah Wilson will tell you that I was one of the people who made a recommendation for her to get the job. I don't know what's going on in the Urban League. I'm not there every day. I don't care to be there every day. I'm critical of a lot of different things, like people are critical of me. Mm-hmm. But whoever called Deborah Wilson, who upset the young lady, don't call her, call me. If you're a man or a woman, call me. Don't call her Norm said this or that. Because I'm going to say what I want to say anyway. So now you got a whole nother week of me talking about the Urban League that you could have just let go. But in saying that, I've been getting phone calls about the Urban League from people who I really respect, people who are leaders in the community, and if whoever the person was who called the young lady, and if you don't hear it, you're deaf. It's not Norman Oliver just speaking. It's people inside your crew. I don't know. I mean, I do not go to board meetings. I mean, I have made a donation years past, and I do like what they stand for. But if you have people in your organization who's talking about you and your leadership, don't make it sound like I'm the heavy. But I do plan on calling Ms. Wilson. But if you have a problem with me, call me. Don't call that young lady and upset her. Let her enjoy her days. Know what I wanted to say also before I go to my guest, right? A lot of people also continue to walk up on me, Calvin and Tom, talking about the mayor and city council president. And if you talk to 100 people in this city, 50 people will go this way and 50 people will go that way. But my real problem with the whole scenario is they make it like it's black on black, or like black people can't disagree. We've had 21 years or so of black mayors and black city council presidents. How about they just disagree? They might not like each other. They may philosophically disagree. They may disagree on policies, politically. They just disagree. But people in our community like, why can't you got black people? No. You got politicians, you got grown men, you got grown people sitting in office, they disagree. You got the Speaker of the House, the President Pro Tem, and you got the governor has never been black. They disagree. So is that a race issue? So let's not always make everything race. Maybe it's just a disagreement. And that's my opinion. My opinion is the only one that counts on this show. So that's my commentary. How you guys doing?
Well, thank you.
Good. How you doing? How you doing, Tom? Hey, Tom.
Be back with you.
Yeah, we got Tom and Calvin. Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up, because I got a good feeling that this is going to be a buckle up show. Now, either you on the side of owning guns, protect yourself, the Second Amendment, am I right?
Right.
Or you want to ban certain guns. Let's start right there. I'm not really familiar with assault weapons, because I think that's one of the biggest arguments right now. And I don't know if assault weapons are Uzis and bazookas. I don't know what exactly it is, right?
It's a bazooka.
Yeah. But
That's an assault weapon.
Yeah, but you guys are of the opinion, the NRA, National Rifle Association, that people should be able to bear guns and house them, walk around with them, whatever you want. Is that pretty much accurate?
Well, certainly I don't think, speaking for the NRA, that we can say we oppose every gun law.
Yeah.
For example, the assault weapons are fully automatic weapons that have been outlawed in this country since 1928. The other side is very big on conflating assault weapons with modern sporting rifles, which look somewhat like assault weapons that are machine guns. That's what an assault weapon is. The first one was the German one developed during the Second World War. And there's select fire, which means you can hold down the trigger and empty the magazine, or you can select either a 3-round burst in some of them or a round at a time. Each pull of the trigger fires 1 round. In Delaware, there are no legal assault weapons. We have guns that look similar to assault weapons that are legal, but they're not assault weapons. They're not machine guns. They're already banned under Delaware law, and they've been banned federally since 1928, except for under very controlled circumstances. So I reject the so-called assault weapon ban. They're already banned. What they're talking about is rifles that are used in modern sporting. They're used for coyote hunting. They're used for target shooting at Camp Perry, which is the big national shoot.
What specific gun or guns or is the President of the United States talking about, and the governor and different legislators? Hey, Alvin, we got to work this really good tonight because this is a really good issue. Thank you, buddy. When we talk about certain assault weapons, right, or certain guns that even the president was trying to ban, and or the state legislator being, i.e. the governor, and the NRA, the National Rifle Association, is like, no, we don't want to register anything.
Well, I think Tom said it earlier that it's the assault-looking weapons. You know, in the Air Force, we have what M16, and you know, M16, as Tom brought out earlier, you could go on a single burst, or you could turn on auto, and just empty the magazine. Those are illegal in most places in America. You can't go buy a fully automatic weapon in America. You can buy a semi-automatic weapon, but you know that it's not an assault weapon. They made it an assault weapon, and because the general public doesn't understand weaponry, so they're easily intimidated and misled by the labeling of the weapons by certain government officials, and it caused people to panic, and then they want to disarm you basically by you know, and then they look at an incident, an unfortunate incident that happened up in Connecticut,
right?
And everybody's against that kind of thing. But if you look overall, those incidents are very rare, and to impose more restrictions on law-abiding citizens, you know, the criminals are the only people happy about this, because they know that they don't. If you say well, you only can have six rounds in a magazine, or I'm going to jail. Well, the criminals say, well, good. You know, I used to watch the westerns.
Let me ask you a question. I mean, let me go. I don't want to get to that. Do you guys? I mean, because I heard. I mean, I think this was like from the National Rifle Association, NRA, said that they believe that, like, all the custodians, teachers, and everyone should be carrying guns in school. Do you go that far?
No. I didn't hear that.
They never said it.
Okay, well, what did they say? Maybe, I mean, I could be wrong.
They pointed out the simple fact that what stops an armed bad guy committing violent acts is an armed good guy.
That's right.
That it's not going to be, we can look at the Virginia Tech shooting, or indeed the shooting in Newtown, Connecticut. He didn't stop when the teacher said, don't hurt the children.
No.
He didn't stop when they hid those children in cupboards trying to protect them. He stopped when the cops came with guns, and then he blew his brains out.
So do you think, or do you agree, do you think that every teacher or every principal in every school should have a gun?
And the NRA never suggested that. What they said is we should have more trained armed people. One of the ideas that's been floated, and there's a former
Tom, I understand that, but let's get specific because it sounds like we get politically here. So if you don't agree with that, we will still always have the same situation. Someone will go into school bang, 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 and they still have to call the cops.
Let me explain.
Yes, sir.
They're talking about hiring retired police officers to be armed at the school at all times. They're talking about training in more rural districts, giving special training, like we give special training to other folks who may be the ones who administer medication if a child is has a bee sting. You don't have everybody jab them with an EpiPen. You have somebody who's trained to take care of those special needs. Firefighters are specially trained. You can have people who volunteer on the school staff, like we've done with pilots and commercial airlines. Some of them volunteer to be trained and armed in the cockpit. We can have specially trained, not everybody in school carrying a gun, but specially trained people who are there, capable of intervening and holding off a bad actor until the police can arrive in force.
Okay.
Because that's what stops these folks.
That's a very good point. And let me contradict you guys, because most NRA members, I guess you guys would agree, even though not everyone, most of them were conservative, mostly Republicans.
I don't know. I mean, certainly throughout I've been to meetings in Texas, I've been to meetings in a variety of states, and even in Delaware, we have a number of strong
But would you say,
supporters for
but
Democrats.
implementing a law like that, right, who's going to pay for it? That'd be more government, more federal spending. Somebody got to pay for it.
Well, you already got it. To me, you get these referendums in the school budgets, right?
Right.
And you raise up $1 gazillion, and we already know it ain't going for education because the scores are terrible in Delaware. So you know what I mean. So where is the money going anyway? You know, we were talking about it's going to be more spending, and I think that, and Tom's absolutely right. The only way you stop aggression is by other aggression, and so if people are shooting at you, one thing I noticed. This is the one thing I noticed about criminals, even on the street. They want to be shooting, but they don't want you to be shooting back at them. And if you start shooting back at them, you'll find that most of these criminals, they ain't that good. And it's the same way in school. If you had somebody in them schools armed, trained to defend, I'm betting you that would have never got that far. And that's the problem. We think we can just put up the peace sign and hold up roses. It's just not going to happen, Storm. And we know better. It's not going to work.
But if you guys,
I wish it would work, but it won't.
Well, how do we control the gun problem? I mean, if you don't want, I mean, some of the gun shows, some of the gun dealerships, you don't want everybody to register. I mean, we fighting some of those laws, right?
Well,
explain to me, because maybe I'm reading something differently. Because I do read a little bit, and I see where you guys are like fighting. I mean, shoot, I got to register every time I go to DMV.
Well, let me explain a couple.
I got to register to vote.
You don't have a constitutional right to a car at DMV. You have a constitutional right under the United States Constitution and also the Delaware Constitution to keep and bear arms. But let me answer your other question about training. The NRA is one of the biggest trainers of law enforcement and private citizens around. And I believe that part of their program is offering training with their experts. They train law enforcement, they assist with training the military, and they train civilians. They can handle the training. They've got the money to do it, and they're willing to do it. So it's not a big budget issue for local school districts. We're talking about having subsidized or free training, though the program details haven't been worked out. Registration applies, let me be clear. We don't have registration in Delaware. We have background checks required anytime a gun dealer sells a firearm in Delaware, whether it's at a gun show, whether it's in their shop, any place else. That's required. You'll hear the figure bandied about that 40% of the firearms are bought without a background check in this country. The Washington Post, which is certainly not a pro-gun organ, it's a very anti-gun organ, gave President Obama 3 Pinocchios, 3 different strikes of fibbing when he made that claim, because it's just not true. The actual figure of guns sold legally in this country without a background check is probably in the single digits.
Let me rephrase this. Let me ask you 2 parts. If you just joined in, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about guns, and I guess the registration of guns, and who should legally have guns, and Calvin and Tom are here, who are NRA, National Rifle Association members, and a little debate about that. What are you guys for, and what are you against?
The NRA supported the Brady background, the instant background check. And the reason we did is it's not imposing on us. We all know that if the police can't do a background check in 20 minutes, they can't do it in 2 weeks because it's either on the computer or it's not. We've supported increasing the mental health access, the records of mental health problems into that database, because that was one of the problems that came up in the Denver shooting. We had a person with severe mental illness whose records weren't in the system. In Virginia Tech, somebody with a history of mental health problems, but because of protections for people with mental health and mental illness, those records were not put into the system. We fixed that in Delaware, and with NRA support. We don't have a problem with bad guys getting picked up in the background check. What we do have a problem with is impediments to lawful citizens being able to purchase a weapon.
But how do you tell?
You run a background check.
But that's on everyone.
It's on everyone at a gun dealer. But let me give you an example of a private sale where it's not required. My dentist enters a retirement home. Can't take his firearms with him into a retirement home. It's against the rules. He's known me for 45 years. He knows I'm an attorney. He knows I'm a law-abiding citizen. Why should I have to take him down to a federally firearms licensed dealer to have them run a background check on me when he's known me all his life? Does the government know me better than him? I think not. That's the type of sale that's currently accepted.
That's debatable. People think that they knew Sandusky down in Penn State, but you don't really know a person. I mean, you could have been going there for 100 years. They don't know what's going on in your house.
Sandusky would have passed a background check.
Yeah, that's my point.
Well,
my point is, no. My point is exactly what you're saying. So we really don't know people. So that's why I don't think.
Well, he knew I didn't have a criminal record.
Okay.
And that's the problem, because what's going to happen, let me give you a scenario where somebody's going to get arrested under the law that's been passed here in Delaware.
Gotcha.
Your stepfather or someone who's been living with your mother for 30 years is now moving down to Florida, doesn't want to take his gun. You went squirrel with him, hunting with him once when you were a kid, and he says, "I'd like you to have my .22 rifle." You don't think about it. That's Ted, who's been living in your house for 30 years. He leaves, you got the rifle, you just committed a crime. So did Ted, because you didn't run down and pay somebody $40 or $50 to run a background check. In the meanwhile, out on the street, you can buy a gun with no background check. That's the way criminals get their guns.
And I disagree with that too.
Pardon me?
Yeah, I agree with you on
I
that.
absolutely disagree with that, but we've got laws in place now. They're difficult to enforce.
Well, explain to me and the viewers, right, what part of the law that our president tried to implement that you guys totally opposed?
Well, he's tried to implement any number of laws. You're going to have to be more specific.
The latest law that, I know Heidi Heitkamp voted against it. She's a Democrat from North Dakota who's a friend, and a few other Democrats, but it was mostly Republicans. The latest gun law.
I think that was the so-called Toomey Compromise on universal background checks. And I think the biggest problem there is what they're really after is registration of all firearms, because right now that's not legal. You're not allowed, the federal government, some states do, but the federal government is not allowed to track how many guns I own, what type of guns I own. They're not permitted to. And the reason is that registration really only has one purpose, and that's leading up to confiscation, and we don't want the federal government to have those records. They don't stop crime. The person who's really the grandfather of the criminal ballistics program, Julian Hatcher, pointed out that registration is completely useless for solving gun crimes. And you need only look at states like New Jersey. They have tons of gun crime there. They have a wonderful registration program. New York, wonderful registration program. Chicago, Detroit. All these places have all the gun control that our governor and the president want to push on the rest of us, and they have incredibly high crime rates.
In Chicago, the murder rate is so far off the chart, and they have one of the strictest gun laws in Chicago. And the president's chief of staff, former chief of staff, is the mayor there, Rahm Emanuel. So we know that don't work with the criminals.
So
It only works with, what is it, and if you listen, what it is to do is to put more burden on people who already law-abiding. It's not the law-abiding people going out here murdering and shooting everybody. Most of the crimes being committed, especially in cities, are done by persons that are prohibited from owning a firearm, and then the firearms that they have are illegally purchased. So why are you going to blame me for something that somebody done around the corner? And this is a problem with the administration that is.
But Calvin, you and
especially
But I heard you being quoted, right? And I know, and I understand your position. But you see the crime in your area.
Yes.
And you don't think anything's wrong with just registering guns?
For what reason, though?
I mean, so we could maybe.
But is a criminal gonna register?
Maybe the criminal stole a gun and we could trace it. Maybe we could trace where the gun come from. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to sound sarcastic.
But that's what I'm saying is that the criminal's not registering. He's not gonna. The criminal.
We all got that.
Yeah, but I don't know if they got it or not because they respond as if they don't got it. See, if you say everybody got that, then why are you constantly bombarding me with more regulations when it ain't me committing no? I got no criminal record clean. It's not me robbing people, but the people you need to be going after, those are the people you're not going after.
Do you guys think that, I mean, every citizen should just have the right to bear arms?
Every citizen, not people who voided that right because they have a criminal conviction of the crimes that prohibit them from carrying a weapon.
Right.
And not people with serious mental illness or who have just lacked the intellect. I mean, there's certain levels.
But how do you?
We get the checks. They got their records. They got records of people. It's just like a driving record.
But you say intellect. I mean, you don't know. You said that earlier. So you want two things. You want them to check out everybody with a mental illness, but you don't want them to check anybody else for guns.
That's not true.
That's not what we're saying.
We can't have it both ways.
Well,
no, we're not.
I'm not asking you to. Every single sale by a federally firearms licensed dealer at a gun show, at their kitchen table, in their store, requires a background check. Even if they're selling a gun from their personal collection,
You got to do a
they're
background check.
required to do a background check before they can transfer that firearm. We don't have any problem with that. What we have a problem with is criminalizing innocent conduct, the occasional sale, because if I'm in business, I have to have that license. So it can't be that I just call myself not a businessman. If I'm in the business, I must have that license, I must do the background check. My dentist doesn't. And I think that that's perfectly okay because it's such a small number. That's not a significant factor in how criminals are getting guns.
Well, we haven't even put the phone number up. We got phone calls. Put the phone number up, Alvin. It's always a good topic. Ladies and gentlemen, either you're for or against the NRA stance, and I think that people, hold for 1 second. I think people appreciate shows like this because we do show both sides. Either you're for or against it, and after it's over, you have your opportunity to make your own decision.
I support the First Amendment right to free speech and all the other amendments as well. So I'm delighted to have people disagree with me. It's a freedom they enjoy in this country.
Right. Thank you. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Norman, again for having this topic again on your show. This is Hanifa Shabazz calling, and I'm listening to the conversation regarding registration. And I hear the gentleman speaking, saying that the background check would be a way of being able to identify. I think I'm very much questioning why pushback on registration, because if the guns are registered, and I understand the fear of proposed confiscation, but if the guns are registered and they're committed in a crime, then will we not be able to trace the gun back to the owner? And the guns and those are guns, if they are registered, how are they getting into the hands of our young people? I mean, they're young, you're right, young people are not going for registration, they're not getting back, but somehow these guns are getting to, with registration would not be a way for us to better
Okay, go ahead.
to our children.
Well,
listen to the answer. Go ahead.
I appreciate the question. It hasn't been in any of the places where it's in place. It hasn't been an effective tool in Chicago. It hasn't been an effective tool in New Jersey. It hasn't been an effective tool in New York or any of the other states where it's in place. So the answer that gun control advocates always have is, if you can demonstrate gun control doesn't work, their solution is, well, we need more of it, by gosh. The problem is there's no evidence that it works in this country. You can look at the heroin epidemic that we have in our city, and indeed our state, because it's not a city problem. And there's no legal heroin any place in this country. You can't go to Virginia and buy the heroin. It's smuggled into this country because there's a demand for it. Criminals, and you can look at Mexico, which is sort of the quintessential example of the type of gun control that Nancy Pelosi and some of the other Democrat leaders want for this country. They have virtually no legal firearms in Mexico, yet they're awash in them because there's money and a demand.
That's it.
Okay, do you have a follow-up?
Can I have a counter? Can I have a counter?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, but understanding that, I know that with the technology, they were the ballistics off of a bullet. It has its own fingerprint. And I know that the citizens was getting to the point where they were actually being able to register each bullet's mark, each gun's bullet on a marking on a bullet. So as technology gets more up to date, and you're able to trace the bullets back to the gun, then the gun gets traced back to the supposedly legal owner. The new law that the government's going to sign regarding being responsible for lost and stolen guns. That's a way for us to be able to trace those guns, but we need to have the registration of who owns the gun for that to even be effective, to find out how those guns are getting into our young people's hands. No one is answering that. How are they getting the guns if they're not registered or background checked? Who is buying guns legally and getting those illegal guns into our children's hands?
Thank you very much.
The same way they're buying heroin, the same way they're buying prescription drugs without a prescription, the same way they're buying marijuana. They've got money, and criminals fill the demand for it.
How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
Fine.
I was just wondering, what if a person purchases a gun and they are cleared, they have a background check and they're cleared to purchase the gun, but after that time period, they commit a crime where they shouldn't carry a gun? Is there anything in place for something like that?
Thank you for your question.
So the question is, if I'm a legal gun owner and I commit a crime, well, A, my records are going to be updated, and B, I'm probably going to get arrested. And the very first thing the police are going to do is take away my firearms.
That's right.
Because it's a condition of probation and parole in this state not to have firearms.
But would you guys agree? I mean, I think we could go back and forth on some of the legal jargon and the Constitution, that we do need more stronger gun laws.
I don't agree with it.
You don't agree?
I don't either. I don't see. I just think we need to. We got enough laws on the books currently. I mean, we just need to enforce the laws we got on the books now. We got plenty of laws. It ain't any more laws. Because the law is only going to affect a guy like that's a law-abiding person. If you live outside the law or you're an outlaw, what do you care if they say we're only allowed to put? Well, Delaware just passed the law about the how many rounds we're allowed in.
They haven't passed.
They haven't passed it, but they're working on it. And so do the criminal? You think you're gonna say, well, look, we got to take out four rounds out the magazine now because the law said we're only allowed to have 6 on. That's,
okay.
That's
just that y'all need the mic. Yeah.
That's just it's ridiculous because
okay. Let me get this call.
I'm going to be the one passing. I'm going to be the one abiding by the law.
Okay. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hey, Norm. Hey, Calvin.
How you doing?
The question I wanted to ask is if the urban folks, Wilmington, Cecil, Delaware, Richmond, Delaware, Philadelphia and stuff, if these kids are running around with new guns, where are they getting them from? They ain't buying them themselves. All the guns is not stolen, but they shooting each other with new guns and stuff. And the National Rifle Association is selling these guns to these kids with a license, a national license out of the trunk of the cars and stuff. Because these kids ain't walk. This is mouse. These kids ain't gone to the stores on guns.
Richard Smith, who's calling, is the president of the NAACP. So what you just said is you think guys from the NRA are selling guns to these folks?
Yes.
I know you didn't say that.
Guns to these kids. These kids are walking around with brand new guns and stuff, and they are not purchasing those guns. All guns are not stolen.
Okay.
There's too many guns out
The
there.
NRA doesn't.
You keep putting on stolen guns and this and that. You got crooked people. You got crooked people in your organization that sell guns to kids and stuff.
Well,
Wow,
That's
wow.
fake.
That's a deep accusation coming from the president of NAACP.
And I'm assuming that he's going to show me some evidence to back up that type of thing, because otherwise it's slanderous. But let me just
Very
be
careful about that.
I want to be fair that when these kids is not buying guns themselves. These brand new guns coming in our community, it's coming from someplace, and if they ain't coming from the dealer, where are they coming from?
Well,
That's a damn fact.
let me tell you, it's not, the NRA doesn't distribute any firearms. I've been a member since I was 13 years old, and they've never given me one. And I think I'd be first in line. Let me be clear. There are what's called straw purchases. They're against the law under federal law. For me, with a clear record, to go buy a gun for the purposes of selling it to someone else, that is already against the law.
Mm-hmm.
And so passing more laws, making it more against the law, isn't going to solve the problem. What you need to do is enforce the law we have. Put those people in jail.
I think one of the big issues here. Hold it for 1 second, Richard. We have a guy who's a spokesperson for the NRA sitting on the show.
I'm a spokesman for the Delaware State
Delaware. Okay. Calvin Brown. Then we have the president of NAACP makes a comment or allegation that he thinks that some of your membership is selling
Yeah, he shouldn't
guns
say that
to people in our neighborhood.
unless he's got some kind of empirical data to support that statement. As the
Well, he
attorney.
must feel some kind of way.
No, I don't care about feelings. You can't say. No, wait a minute. Hold it now, mouse. You can't make a statement.
I love it like my brother, but let me tell you what's going on. Our people's dying, okay? Our kids are dying, and the Rifle Association is supporting everything not to help us.
No, brother, no.
And he's sitting there, he can go back to the suburban neighborhood. He don't live on 3rd and Clayton and stuff.
Well, I live there.
Yeah, look your damn thing. I know you do.
I lived on
You go out
18th
there
and
and
Washington
shot.
for 15
And you
years.
put guns and stuff. Let's be truthful with this.
Yeah, we are, but
We
this
have
is.
a
But
problem, man.
I can understand the emotional connecting here.
This ain't emotion. This is the fact.
It's not fact. It's not fact. You can't prove that the NRA is driving up in neighborhoods and opening up the trunk and selling.
I'm saying that, Cal. I'm not saying that. I'm saying
That's what you
some
did say,
members-
though.
I'm
Didn't you
saying
say that?
Some members, just like some members of my group is out of control. It's some members that basically out of control and using the NRA to do their dirty work by going stealing guns out of the trunk of their cars and stuff. If you keep looking at it, it happens to Philadelphia. Pull the records out, and it's the fact that new guns does not come into Wilmington by the kids who got them.
Let me explain
can't
something
walk
to
up
you.
and buy guns.
Mouse, can you hear me one thing? I was at a local gun store here and I'm making a purchase. And a lady, like Tom said, she came in, she was clean. But the guy with her was clearly involved in some kind of criminal. And this is what we call straw purchase. Now, she didn't even have a clue. He was in there talking to the salesman. Y'all want Intertech 45 with this here. And so the salesman says, who's purchasing the weapon? So she was the purchaser. So he told her, if you buy this weapon, to give this weapon to this person here, and they're illegal, you're going to be in trouble. She then walked out of the store. That's how you get new weapons in people's hands. They
How come she didn't call the cops?
Huh?
How come she didn't call the cops?
Well, the lady left. She declined to fill out the application. So it was a sale never happened. But this is what happens. They go places.
Let me tell me for 1 second. Hey, Richard, as the president of NAACP, do you guys have any kind of stance when it comes to the NRA or purchasing or buying guns or registering guns?
Norman, we got members of National Rifle Association, but we support background checks. We support background checks, especially for the urban areas like Wilmington, Seaport and stuff, because we got such a problem. We tell people not to bear guns or buy gun stuff. We're saying that there's some folks out there that's delivering guns in this community, it's like cocaine and heroin and stuff, that we don't own no boats, we don't own no stores, we don't make guns.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's why you got to watch Crossfire. Thank you for your call. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hi. I'm
situation where, one more time, we have people balking against doing the right thing because it's going to inconvenience a few thousand, few hundred, few whatever, people who have privilege and have always had privilege. They're not in our community. We have a different venue altogether. We have to start protecting our kids. I've gone to so many funerals in the last 2 years, I've lost track. And unfortunately, they were all people under 25.
Wow.
When are we going to take a stand and say, look, I don't know what they're going to do over there. I don't know what they're going to do in the suburbs. I don't know what they're doing in Westover Hills. But I know at 6th and Madison, somebody's got to stop this insanity.
Thank you so very much.
I don't see anybody stepping up to do that.
Hey, thank you very much, ma'am.
Let me suggest to you that passing more laws that outlaws conduct that's already illegal isn't going to do anything either. The demand is certainly to do something, but you can't, as a leader, just do something. You must do the right thing.
Do the right thing, that's right.
And simply passing more laws isn't going to do it. And I'm sorry that it's not going to do it. I wish I had a magic wand for the problem of urban youth killing other urban youth too. I wish I had a magic wand to solve lots of problems. But gun control is not going to work. It doesn't work. You can look at the model.
Okay. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hey, Norm, thanks for taking the call. Mike Riley, good show tonight.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, listen, serious topic here, and one that's close to me, because I live in the urban community, and I do believe that there is a source that is flooding the urban community with guns. Now, how are they obtaining those guns in bulk? I don't know, but I think that a concerted effort needs to be initiated to find out who's importing these drugs. I mean, the drugs as well, because it's the same principle. Whenever there's a destructive element to be introduced into the urban community, it's done so behind the scenes. No, it's not going to be on the book, but somebody's responsible.
Hey, Mike, Mike, time out for 1 second. You just made a comment that was pretty close to the president of NAACP. And you're a TV host. You also think that someone is bringing guns in, selling them to our people?
Well, listen, brother. Yes.
Okay.
Now, did I put a name or a face?
I didn't say you did. I didn't say you did.
No, I know you didn't, Norm. I know you didn't. But let me tell you something. There has been plenty of dialogue before this conversation about this same perspective that I just voiced. It's all out there to be researched, and for somebody to discount it without even considering it, I think is irresponsible and disingenuous. And also, Norm, I also feel that about the armed personnel being trained in schools. I just had this was actually a question: is there going to be an insurance liability affected by that? You know, because there is a liability anytime guns are introduced into an environment, especially with kids, whether the person's trained or not. I mean, accidents happen. The kids may be able to somehow gain access to the weapon. You know what I mean?
Got you. Good question, Mike. You guys want to respond to him?
Let me respond to a couple of parts. The idea that somehow the NRA, I'm dismissing the idea out of hand that the NRA is behind flooding Wilmington with firearms. Yes, I am, because until I see some evidence, that to me is an outrageous statement. And if someone knows about it, believe me, tell me, because I'll be the first to be in line to help prosecute them, because bringing guns in and selling them illegally is not something that we support and never have. Dealing with the question of liability, certainly those details would have to be looked at, the same as you look at any other liability issue in a school. My guess is that far more children die in school bus accidents every year than die from school resource officers that are already in school with firearms now in many states, including our own. And we don't have incidents with those firearms being, at least to my knowledge.
Let me ask both of you guys this, though. Would you both agree? Let me get this call first. Hold on for 1 second, okay? I think I accidentally hung up on someone, too.
I apologize.
Would you agree that some of the things that are written in our Constitution, right, it's a different day and time, that some things just need to be revisited, even some of our gun laws and some of the things, not just the Second Amendment in the Constitution, but a whole bunch of stuff in the Constitution. I mean, this stuff was written in the 1800s, and probably slavery was still, so some things just need to be revisited. I mean, and sometimes people get into the Constitution, well, this is the Constitution, and we didn't even have computers. We didn't have
The
faxes.
question is, who's going to be the one that takes it down and replaces it with their stuff?
Maybe we should have you.
Well,
Have you on the committee in the Senate? How you doing? Welcome to the show. I knew I was going to get that response. How you doing? Welcome to the show. Hello? Oh my goodness. How you doing? Oh, I'm sorry. Welcome to the show.
How you doing, Norm? This is Rick.
Hey, Rick.
And Calvin and other guests. I live in Newark.
Hey, Rick, do me a favor. Cut your TV down, okay? Because it's an echo.
Okay, I live in Newark, right on the Maryland line. And you can go down to Maryland and Elton and Cecil County, all them areas, and buy straw purchase guns all the time. I work with some of the NRA, the Ku Klux Klan people that work at Chrysler. They got more guns than you got shoes in your closet. You can buy them all day. I've seen young black men go down there and buy guns. So what Calvin talking about and what this other gentleman talking about, I know because I live in the area, I deal with these people, and I know what's going on.
Wow.
Plus I work down at Legislative Hall, and you got a lot of people down there are the same way. You can buy guns all day long in Maryland. Anytime you get ready. And if you don't believe me, tell Calvin come down here and I'll get informed.
Okay, thanks, Rick.
Well, that would be illegal already.
that would be illegal.
What you got? Hold on for 1 second, caller. What do you guys feel about some of the buyback programs that are being implemented?
It's a waste of money. This person, let me tell you why. Let me tell you what I saw at the gun buyback. I saw people bringing in old broken guns. This old broken shotgun, they happy to get the buyback. They getting $250 and $300. They bringing in guns that ain't worked in 30 years, and they got a whole trunk load of them. Look, and they getting $4,000 and going out and get them a brand new Browning shotgun and new 30-06 rifles and new all kind of new stuff. The government.
But you guys would agree.
That means the guns committing the crimes.
But I'm saying, but you guys got to agree. We got to do something with,
Yeah, but I mean,
with,
do
the,
something,
with the gun laws,
but
right?
you're
I mean,
missing- you're
you
missing
basically said.
something.
Yeah,
You keep saying
do
something.
something.
I don't like that term.
okay, how you doing? Welcome.
I'm not going to do something for the sake of doing something.
Let
I'll
me
do something
have
that
my
works.
callers help me out here. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
Hi, Norm. It's Richard.
Hey.
I see the point that the NRA and Calvin are making, and I kind of fall down in between both of you. But the fact of the matter is that we have the technology now that if they want to resolve this problem, it's relatively simple. Everybody knows it's simple, and all they have to do is make laws not against the people that have guns or the guns, but what they need to do is start to regulate the ammunition. We have the technology to do it. No one ever mentions it because they know we have the technology, and that's what we need to do. We just need to regulate the ammunition,
What does he mean?
and that would resolve the problem.
No, hold up. He said, "What do you mean, Calvin? Go ahead."
Well, you want me to just? You don't want me to have any bullets for my gun?
I'm saying that with the technology that we have now, that you can tell where the bullet came from, and if you regulate the ammunition, a lot of the issues and a lot of the problems will go away by just regulating the ammunition.
It's just going to cost
Not an
more. That's
infinity
all.
amount of ammunition that you can have.
Now, the
If you
ammunition
have
won't go
limits
away.
if you have limits on magazines.
Listen, brother.
if you had-
Listen 1 second. It won't go away. It's just like anything. It's supply and demand. It's the basic laws of
Hey,
marketing.
thanks for your call, okay?
What'll happen
Thank
is
you.
the people with the money, who's able to afford it, they'll still get the ammunition. It won't go away.
Okay, Albin, the engineer, just sent text me a question.
Mm-hmm.
Do your guests agree someone's right to bear arms is more important than black youth's life?
What kind of question is that? We don't. It ain't got nothing. The two don't the same. It's apple and oranges. Person bearing arms ain't got nothing to do with young black people dying. Young black people getting killed. Now let's face. Okay, because I live here. I live in I grew up in Riverside. So people be calling in talking about, you from Greenville? No, I'm from 27th and Bowers. I lived on 22nd and Lamont, 9th and Monroe, and I've been on 3rd and Clayton for 23 years. So let me just clear up some of this. You ain't been around here. A lot of these young people killing each other in the drug business. Stick-up boys robbing drug dealers putting hits on them, getting them murdered. Let's call it like I see it. They robbing each other because the market's tight. It's tough on the street right now. It's crowded on the block. And what people don't want to talk about is the dirty little secret in the hood that is just business as usual. And there's other folk out there murdering their own people to get a lion's share of the market. It's like Wall Street. The only thing is, if the casualties ain't the market going up and down, it's dead bodies laying on the ground.
How you doing? Welcome to the show.
And that's the truth.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you the truth.
I don't think that National Rifle Association will be out here selling guns. I mean, that sounds so stupid. I mean, how much are they going to lose more than they're making?
Okay, thank you.
Right.
I don't know about that, but
How you doing? Welcome to the show. Wow, that person hung up. Well, this is a lively show.
yeah, I mean,
Can
I'm
I comment on the ammunition issue?
Yeah, sure. Hold for 1 second. Go ahead.
First of all, there isn't any right now, but there's a real drought of ammunition because of the panic buying in the wake of Newtown. People went and bought every bit of ammunition they could get because they're afraid they won't be able to get any more.
Mm-hmm.
When I was first started shooting, you had to produce a driver's license and register every time you bought handgun ammunition. That was the federal law. It didn't do anything to stop crime. They finally did away with it in the early 80s because it was a huge record-keeping requirement that did no good. Canada's getting ready to get rid of their registration that they've had in place for years and years because it's a huge paperwork expense and it hasn't solved any crimes. Maryland has, every time you buy a handgun down there, you have to turn in a fired shell casing. The idea being that if they find a shell casing on the streets of Baltimore at a shooting, they can then match it up with one they've got in their record. That's not solving any crimes.
But you would agree that the NRA is a powerful lobby.
Yes, I'm glad that the NRA is a powerful
okay. I mean,
lobby.
so we do agree on one thing.
Yes.
We probably. And how do I? Hold
you look relieved when you said that.
Well, hold on. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. I want my listeners to get. I want my guests to get more questions than me. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
How you doing, Norm? I'm gonna try to make this short, but you know, and Calvin know, and I know, we grew up in Wilmington,
Right.
and it was a time in Wilmington you could leave a party 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, and walk home, and not worry about getting shot, robbed, or killed. And that goes for Riverside, that goes for South Bridge, that goes for East Side. We could walk around that whole town and not worry about getting killed. We in the black community, we got to stop making excuses and stop making excuses that, you know, it's other people putting things in our community. We have to start grabbing it from the boots up within our community, because you three guys that grew up in Wilmington know that we didn't grow up like that.
No, we
didn't. We didn't grow up with the same crime that we have right now. And we have to take care of our community. We're going to have to find the roots. We're going to have to get our kids more motivated in school and give them hope. They don't have hope right now in Wilmington. And I'll go back to maybe busing, destroying that hope that we used to have. But I can only speak for Wilmington. We didn't used to be like this. And it wasn't because of guns. Guns was always here. We have to rebuild our community.
Thank you so very much.
Well,
Hey, you know what? Hey, ladies and gentlemen, again, I think that what we try to do on Community Crossfire, what we've been trying to do lately, is give you an opportunity to hear all sides. Either you agree or disagree, but I'm going to put it in front of you. I want to educate you about the NRA.
Right.
I want to educate you about the Tea Party. I want to educate you about what the governor thinks. That's what's important to me, educating our community. About. That's why you have the mayor, you have the U.S. senators. We talk about civil union and civil marriage. Because you agree or disagree, just turn to the basketball game. But if you want to have an argument, disagreement, or dialogue, you're going to get it here. How you doing? Welcome to the show. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Yes. I was listening to the show, and I wanted to elaborate on, I was listening to Calvin Brown. By the way, we went to high school together. We graduated class of 74. My name is Sharon Smith. My son Antonio Smith was murdered April 27, 2011. And what Calvin said is what happened is precisely what happened in the event that with my son. Only thing, my son wasn't involved. He was sitting in front of his home. Someone stopped to see him, a friend who was involved in drug activity. There was a hit put on him because of the same characteristic, the same thing that he said, where people putting hits on each other, drug-related activity. You know, one of the things in our community is this no snitch, no tell. Excuse my French, but that's bullshit. Mm-hmm. If I see it, I'm going to tell it. And people can easily say that, Norman, if it hasn't happened to them. Mm-hmm. My son was getting ready to go to law school. Mm-hmm. Okay, he made some errors in his life. He turned them around, and he tried to talk to other people to cause them to try to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I agree with Calvin. I understand what he's saying. Also, the factor exists that what I was saying about the snitch thing, we in the community, people see their family members doing things that are wrong. And as opposed to saying to them, listen, what are you doing? You know, they turn ahead. You can't have your cake and eat it too.
So, who's this? I'm sorry, who's this?
My name is Sharon Smith.
So, Sharon, basically what you're saying is the issues are bigger than that.
That's right.
Okay. Hey, thank you very much
and
for
you
your
know
call.
what Sharon makes a point here that I think that especially in the inner city communities that to me force me to arm up. And that is, you got factions going on down here. People just the other day, right across the street from my house, you've probably seen it in the paper, broad daylight, 12 o'clock noon, one guy down in the park, they said he was robbing the other drug dealers or tying up people. So a hit was put out on him. And another kid jumps out the car, just runs down in the park, kids, broad daylight, and just opens up on him. So he's hit 2-3 times, somebody else is hit up the street. And it's like these wild scenes like this. Now, a guy ran in my barbershop, and the police ran behind him. But you know why I'm armed? I've been robbed twice there. Armed robbery. Not me, but my other barbers. Mm-hmm. And I refuse because the barbershop's connected to my home. This is the different criminal we got now. These ain't the criminals that used to, we used to have burglars. A burglar had enough, I want to say, little common courtesy to wait till you leave, then he break in your house. now they got what they call home invasions, where they come in while you're in there. And so it's a different criminal. So, you almost feel like you got to walk around the house with a weapon on your side when you're eating dinner, thinking somebody going to kick the door in, and now you're in a gunfight.
But at some point, when does it end? I mean, it'd be like the OK Corral here. Everybody walking around with guns.
Well, you know what? Believe it or not, that makes things a lot better. You might not think so.
Are you serious about that?
I'm serious. You know one thing I respect about the cowboy movies? People was less likely to draw on you.
Oh, time out, Calvin. Are you serious?
Now listen to me. Listen. You know one thing about the Western movies? People was less likely to draw on you if they look on your hip and see you got a 44 on your hip. They're not in a hurry. I had a guy come to my house, a young kid, point a gun at my wife. Mm-hmm. And then I ran up on him in the street. And if it wasn't for the fact that I knew his mother and his grandmother, I told him to pull it out. I was going to give him a fair fight with it. But I was going to kill him right there. He threw that gun on the ground. I'm going to tell you something. I don't play with guns, whether they 16 or 60. If they pull a weapon out on me, they a grown man.
Turn your TV down for a second. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, but you have to turn your TV down, please.
All right. Thank you. It's not only a Wilmington. Hello.
Yeah, we here.
It's not only a Wilmington problem; it's a national problem, and it's a moral problem. Until we get back to the fear of God and sanctity of life,
amen,
nothing's going to change. I mean, where are all the churches? My God, there should be a rage in Wilmington about all this killing. The people should be out in the streets like back in Martin Luther King days.
Wow.
I mean, why is everybody so silent that we're crying? Home invasions are everywhere. It's not only Wilmington; it's a national problem.
It is.
Until we fear God, love our neighbors, that all this killing will stop. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I wanted to follow up on what Calvin said about more guns. Professor Lott did a study and published a book called More Guns, Less Crime. because the states that have allowed concealed carry, and that's
Texas.
the majority of them, have not had the blood in the streets that the opponents all predicted would happen. We'd have people shooting each other over cutting in line at the grocery store. In fact, what you've had is a decrease in the crime rate.
Absolutely.
Because, well, I can give you an example down in Florida. Someone had the bad judgment to rob a Denny's at the 4:30 Blue Hair special when the elderly folks come in to get their early bird special. They were shot twice from 2 different concealed carry holders because there were armed
Yeah, but
people
those are
that...
certain. Let's take a couple quick calls, okay? How
Well,
you
now,
doing?
hundreds of thousands of times a year, Norman,
That
guns
happens?
are used in self-defense. Hundreds of thousands, a lot of times without them ever being fired. My grandfather twice used firearms when he was out in the country.
So some people, but the bottom line is, you guys stand is more guns.
Not for everyone.
Not
For
for
people
everybody.
who are
How you doing?
willing to
Welcome
get
to the
the
show.
training.
Let me get the calls in. How you doing? Welcome to the show. Hello? Yeah, come on, let's go. We got a couple minutes.
Yes, the real problem here is drugs and alcohol, and the fact that we only have one detox center in the state of Delaware, and people are showing up over that detox center on on Kirkwood Highway and being turned away every day. Now they're going to go get their fix somewhere. Where do you think they're going to get it? You fix drugs and alcohol and get these people out of these drug-infested streets. And down at the Stokely Center in Georgetown, where the infrastructure is already there, I've got a proposal that I'm working on with a lot of different groups trying to get people to sign on to this. The answer is there. We need to use our heads.
Let me ask you a question. Hello?
Yes.
Do you agree with the NRA?
I come from a family of gun owners. My father's Native American. I lived around guns all my life. But I don't think that everybody carrying a gun is the answer. This is not the old Wild West. I am opposed to.
That's the way we hit it to.
Well, I never suggested that everyone carry a gun.
How you
I
doing?
want mental evaluations. Get some mental health evaluations.
I think they said that. Yeah. Okay.
I'm honored
No,
to
they
speak to you,
haven't done it
Liz.
yet. They
I've
haven't
listened
done
to
it
you for
yet.
years.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like.
Okay.
You said, right, well, we not saying everybody. Nobody never said everybody.
What don't sound like that?
Well, let me be clear.
Yeah, we didn't say everybody.
I'm not suggesting for a second people be forced
Let
to
me ask you
have
a question.
firearms.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, I got to close out. Thank you guys, man.
Thank you. I hope you'll
I
have
think
us
it's
back.
good time. You ain't got no guns on you. Don't shoot. Look, don't shoot me when I get out of here, man.
No, we don't do that, man.
I mean, hugs, not guns. They said hugs, not drugs. I'm saying hugs, not guns. Norman, how you doing, man? Good. Okay. Hey, I hope you guys enjoyed this show. And again, the person who made the comment about the Urban League and called Deborah Wilson, again, call me. I mean, obviously, I've never been in a board meeting. Somebody from the board called me, a donor. I don't even know half the folks. Okay, so don't make me the heavy.
Can I ask you one question?
Cal, don't tell me trying to make us the heavy.
You know what? I was supposed to do something for the Peacekeepers. They got something June the 29th at Price's Run Park.
Okay.
And I left the flyer home, but June the 29th they got brother.
So is this a paid advertisement?
No, it's not paid. I just did it
I
for
got
free.
you. No, but it's not free for me.
Oh, free for you. You're doing something pro bono.
No, that's right.
Always a
June
good
29th,
idea.
they got a wonderful thing going on in Price's Run Park. Free food,
Come on, big guy.
boom bounce, everything for the
You only want
kids.
to say hi to people?
Free haircuts.
All right, man, you did it. Okay, good.
Everything.
Okay,
All
good.
right.
And again, don't forget, again, George Witcher and all you guys, congratulations. Jay Caldwell, Marva Richardson, you guys did an excellent job. Thank you.
Give a shout out to those who
Sure.
served our country.
Give a shout out to the folks who served
Got
our
my Air
country.
Force stuff on today. I'm ex-Air Force. Just, a lot of guys passed away that I know in the military. I got a little something from a guy named Jaywan Parker.
And Vinny Wright told me to give a shout out to his mother-in-law, but he's supposed to text me her name because she watched the show. So many people watch this show.
That's right, brother.
And they enjoy it.
Thank you for your service.
Hey, Calvin, that's the last time I'm inviting you on. I mean, you killed my
military right
You killed
there.
my ratings.
Yeah. I have
But
gone
nice
up.
meeting you, though. Thank you. All right, buddy.
All right.
All right, I'm out of here.